Well, hello everybody. I'm Drew. We're in the Good Vibes room. I hope you have a good time. I hope it's fun. Today we are going to go over my favorite albums of the year, 10 of them. Not really doing any particular order other than chronological, so I didn't really rank them. I hope you have a great time with this. And we're going to go right into it. Just a little bit about me, my biases. I love hip hop. I love pop. All genres though, really, so you'll see that come through. So yeah, we talk music in here, we talk culture, we're gonna have a good time. So let's get right into it. First up on my list, the posthumous release that came out in January from Mac Miller. Believe it or not, Circles came out this year. This could be his best work. I said nothing necessarily jumps out at you like a typical hip hop record because it's not a typical hip hop record. The one track that does would be Blue World, which I love, and the most hip hop centered track. Other than that, it's more song form. And in an interview I read with Thundercat, who's on the album, and of course one of Mac's best friends, that's who he was going to tour with before he died. He said Mac was planning on releasing after this album of just song form. His next one was going to be back to basics, back to his roots of hip hop. Would have been awesome to see, of course. But we got Circles, and let me tell you, it's amazing. Like I said, it's his best work so far. You find yourself settling in to each song, because it kind of pulls you in, and it's a great quarantine album overall. He didn't know that was going to happen, of course, but it ended up being great. He sounds more confident in his solitude as opposed to his uneasiness of Swimming, the album before this. And though he continued to battle demons, he really was in a good mental space. It makes you miss his effortless way of putting you at ease with his voice, letting you know that he's been through it too, maybe worse, and that everything is going to be okay. He always had that great spirit about him to really make you feel better. And this album, of course, just makes you miss him even more. Next is The Weeknd. Came out March, After Hours. The artist that was snubbed most by the Grammys this year. I love this album. It was my favorite Weeknd album. It sounded so expensive. The production was top notch, but he rose to the occasion with his songwriting, with his vocal performance. Heartless, of course, comes in. One of my favorite songs of the year. It's a banger. Top notch production from Metro Boomin. Fantastic. Goes back to his old ways of just diving into substances, drowning out in distraction to keep him from his troubles, which on this album he shows is his heartache, his lost relationship that he feels he let slip away. This whole album feels like I'm watching a movie with the anti-hero that is Abel. Blinding Lights, of course, maybe the song of the year. Infectious Melody. Great cover, by the way, from The Naked and the Famous on that one. Next up, we have Rina Sawayama with her self-titled debut, Sawayama, came out in April. I got to thank my friend Josh for turning me on to her music. I asked him what she sounds like, and after listening to this album, I had my answer, and that's nobody. This album crosses all genres, really just lets me know that you can do anything in a song. You don't have to confine yourself to any genre norms. This is rock, this is hip hop, it's pop, a true masterpiece. And from start to finish, it's just challenging my ear to hear all these new ways to present sounds. And this is her debut album. Like I said, I'm really excited to see what she can do in the future. Some of my favorites, Paradisen is great vibes. Then you have Excess, again, just terrific album. Next up, we have arguably my favorite hip hop album of the year. That is Run the Jewels 4. They want to ask who are the ones in control, who are the ones abusing their power, because we want their heads. And they work hard to get you angry, but you should be angry. You should be angry that there's oppressors out there, really no matter who you are, just from the slums of Atlanta to, big time rappers like Killer Mike and LP. Either way, there's someone there trying to get you down. Their goal is to help you recognize that phenomenon is happening, and they want you to do something about it. Peaceful, but maybe verbally aggressive. You know, they want you to get your message out there. Start to finish, it's awesome. You start with the banger Yankee and the Brave, and it really does not let up. It sounds pretty futuristic. Again, awesome album, maybe their best work. Next is our second posthumous release on this list. That is going to be Legends Never Die from Juice WRLD. Really beautiful job. You know, this album acted as a eulogy, so I think his record label and everyone got together to make an album that Juice would have been very happy with. I found myself easily learning the lyrics to every song. You know, he makes sense, and yet his lyrics are so accessible. His songs are so accessible, and I could easily memorize his lyrics. His interludes speak to his message. They really touch your heart, and it's great to hear people remember him, and also great to hear his voice of his, again, uplifting messages that you can overcome what you're battling. Wishing Well, of course, one of the best songs of the year, one of my favorite. You hear his pain, you hear his sadness, and I can't imagine how people would react if this album came out and he was still alive. It would just be like, I hope people would rush to help him, because so many times he really is calling out for help. But again, he was such a nice guy. And there was the factor of maybe he didn't tell people all of his problems, which he does go into in the lyrics of Wishing Well. Next, we have the fun journey, the trippy sounds of Glass Animals' Dreamland. I read a review for this album where they said it just sounds like some guy sitting down in a Coachella tent telling you his life story. And I'm like, what's wrong with that? You're getting this glimpse into Dave's past, present, and future. It's totally the band's most vulnerable lyrics to date. But again, all the instrumentals are so fun that it's this great juxtaposition. Tangerine starts off the album. Very danceable track, of course, very lighthearted. Hot Sugar keeps up the vibes. This is a great summertime album, outside album, in my opinion. We get into the more hip-hop centered tracks with Space Ghost Coast to Coast and Tokyo Drift, with the amazing feature from one of the best rappers in the game, Denzel Curry. Heat Waves is one of the best songs of the year. He's also naming all of these things throughout the album that, born in the 90s, you're so nostalgic over. Dunkaroos, Pokemon cards, bottle, whatever, all the fun stuff. Next up, maybe my favorite album of the year, the debut from Brasstracks, Golden Ticket. You know we're jamming, but there's still these elements of pop, neo-soul, jazz, hip-hop, all blend together so beautifully, and it really embodied the energy that I wanted to have and emulate this year. Every single feature on here is amazing. Hold Ya has the awesome back and forth vocals from the guy and the girl of this band called Lawrence. They're pretty awesome. Change for me is one of my favorite tracks with Sam Henshaw, one of the best singers in the game right now, honestly. You have Guidelines, another banger. Common comes through with an awesome feature on Golden Ticket. Really is a fun time, really going to get you going. This is a really fun band. I encourage you to check them out. And I saw them live once, and I was like very surprised. They were awesome. So, and next up we have Detroit 2 from Big Sean. He sounds the best he's ever sounded. This is my favorite Big Sean album. I've always admired the way he can make a hip-hop track that can have radio play and has pop appeal, yet doesn't sound sell out. He sounds so focused and dialed in from start to finish. I really appreciate it. He's obviously been doing a lot of work on himself. He made his battle with anxiety and depression sort of public, and he's risen above on this album, at peace with himself, blocking out distraction. The interludes are great. Dave Chappelle, Erykah Badu, Stevie Wonder talking about their time in Detroit, their fond memories, the magic of the city that they've experienced. Next, we have another one of what I think could be my favorite album of the year between this and Brasstracks, I'd say. That's the debut LP from Joji. You may know him as Filthy Frank or the Pink Guy from his viral, sort of obscene YouTube characters. But he's gotten serious now with his music, and it's awesome. It is soulful. It is sentimental right off the bat. You're feeling these emotional choruses. He's flexing his falsetto talents. He goes for the gorgeous with the strings and the piano. Each hook of this album is really fun. I think he has a knack for it. They definitely get stuck in your head. They let you sing along. Daylight, of course, is a banger. Gimme Love has that driving boom clap bass, and its second half takes you into heaven. Run, another great single off the album, ends with an awesome guitar solo. Let's bring back solos. This blend of indie rock and lo-fi and hip-hop and pop just creates this gem that matches the aesthetic I love so much. So again, love this album. Last but certainly not least, I have Be from BTS. They came through strong with their longer album this year, Map of the Soul 7, which I of course loved. I'm really getting to enjoy and know this group so much over the past couple of years. Been my #1 Spotify artist the past 2 years. I decided to review this album even though it's a little shorter because I think they just evolved from the great work they did on Map of the Soul and keep pushing the boundaries of what is K-pop. I mean, you have Dynamite, which is sung in all English. So is that K-pop? One of the best songs of the year, one of the best pop songs in recent memory, honestly. It really showed people this year that when in doubt, just dance, and Dynamite will help you do that, and you'll be happier. The single Life Goes On tries to capture the sadness and just bummerness of the pandemic canceling all of our plans. But what it says is, what are we left with? We're left with each other, and that can be a beautiful, beautiful thing. Life goes on. Blue and Gray, one of the more emotional tracks from such an emotional group anyways, that was supposed to be on V's mixtape, but the group loved it so much they put it on the album. Just a beautiful, melancholy ballad of what it feels like to feel blue and gray. You know, I love the description that Suga gives. He calls depression a blue question mark in his head, and that just makes so much sense to me. Then they come through with the party, telepathy, fun, retro groove, disease they have, or dis-ease, whatever you want to call it. Brasstracks produced that track, and it is my favorite off the album. I was pleasantly surprised to learn that. Just a fun hip-hop, party, funk, and would sound amazing live. Always gets me dancing. So there you have it. There are my favorite 10 albums of the year. Please let me know if you agree, if you disagree. Always down for the conversation. We keep it peaceful in this good vibes room, of course, but we love to converse, and that's what it's all about, freedom of expression. So thanks, guys. We're going to keep it up. Have fun. And Happy New Year. Let's get it. 2021, baby.